Welcome back to the call.
Well, welcome back, Mr. Stacy.
Dr. Scott Whittle. Good to be back in the call room. And man, what a turkey season we had. We'll talk about that and the close calls that we had and didn't end quite the way we wanted it to, but it was a fun time. We had an awesome time chasing longbeards on public and private, and Scott, I mean, he came out with everything that he had. He was throwing everything at them, plus the kitchen sink, and so. But it was amazing spring, to say the least. And looking forward now to what happens next. I guess just in the we have a long period, Scott, where we're doing nothing.
I know it is.
Besides getting ready for, I guess, dove and duck season.
Yeah.
And so, and you're always working toward that.
Yeah.
Always.
Yes. This I am super excited about the duck season coming up. So trying to get the prep on it, working on the boats, trying to get the finalization on that, trying to get duck calls in. I'm super stoked about the duck calls that are coming.
You've landed some pretty impressive duck calls. I mean, really, you've added to your arsenal, and I know you've got really blessed by finding, your insomnia has helped you, get some really good deals on duck calls and top brand duck calls, not just any other duck call, but some really nice stuff, and we'll talk about that. And then I know you've been dealing with Boss and Turtle Box, and you've just been on the phone with everybody.
I'm trying, Stacy. I'm trying to get known. We're trying to get everybody out there, trying to get our name out there, trying to set up some relationships where we can bring some stuff to you guys. This year was, like you said, with the turkey season, it's been an incredible year for me. It's probably 20 years in the making since I've been back out. One thing is that Stacy will probably talk about is me gagging on the diaphragm call. Sounded like I was choking up. The thing, it was like, do you need the Heimlich maneuver, or what are you doing over there? You learn real quick.
I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was. I mean, to start off with, we're hunting with this professional turkey hunter, and that was the first time that I guess we've been out, maybe the second time. And Scott comes with, like I said, full arsenal. I mean, he's got all of his decoys, every decoy that I'm talking about top of the line decoys. I mean, they're amazing. They look so realistic. He's got them all laid out on his truck. He's there. He's at the spot an hour before I guess any of us are, and so he's done and ready to go. And so he's got his decoys all laid out, and he opens the truck door and he's like, "Let me show you what I got." He brings out this gun, this 12 gauge like home defense, like AR looking military shotgun. And I think he's just going to show it to us. I think he's going to show it to me. And we had Hunter Ferrier with us and his wife Peyton. So I'm thinking Scott's just going to show us the gun. No, Scott's bringing it with him.
I'm bringing the full thing. I was decked out, and if y'all know Hunter, Hunter's a traditional hunter, definitely Mossio through and through. I step out of the truck in full Sitka regalia from the top to the bottom. I look like I should have been a poster child for Sitka.
Dude, you look like a model for Sitka.
I need to get a rep.
You look like a model for Sitka. I mean, from the boots to the hat. I mean, he looked like a model for Sitka.
Yeah. Now, Brad Yeomans, if you're out there and you hear this, you need to send us some stuff from Sitka. Let us know that's on there. Get us some advertisement on there. Make sure that we're on there.
Look us up, Brad.
That's it.
Yeah, definitely, because we are. Scott he won't wear anything but Sitka. I don't know that he's in that brand die hard, and so he's always ordering stuff, buying stuff, and so Sitka makes a great product. We'll just go ahead. Everybody knows that. A lot of people put them down, because of the prices and stuff, but they make a great product.
They do.
In every genre. I mean, from mule hunting to deer hunting to duck hunting to turkey stuff. I mean, all their stuff is amazing.
So what we're going to talk about today? Tell me what we're going to talk about.
Let's talk about turkey. Let's talk about the turkey season. I know it was short-lived for both of us, and we didn't get out as much as we wanted to. We had a Tennessee trip planned that kind of fell through, and so maybe just talk about, I love your excitement. I mean, Scott, he's excited about everything. when he got out to the turkey woods, like he said just a few minutes ago, that was the first time he'd been out in many years. How many years had you?
It's probably closer to 25.
Yeah, and so I brought him back in there, and so
I've got the fever again.
Oh, and in helping with that fever, he calls his mentor and talks to his mentor who got him into turkey. And so tell us about who this mentor is, how he got you to turkey hunting, what y'all talked about when you came back into the turkey woods. Just give us a little synopsis or just a little bit of that.
One of the guy that he talks about as my mentor is a guy by the name of Ronnie Goins, who lives in Central Georgia. Ronnie and I have known each other since probably 1995. I took a job with the company I was working at, and he and I became friends instantaneously. But he was a big time hunter. I mean, and I always say this, kudos to him. He really got me involved in it. I had come down from a business trip and I made my dad a commitment. I was never a hunter at all. And my dad wanted me to go hunting with him. And I was like, okay, man, I don't want to do this, but I'll do it anyway. So as soon as I got there, I met Ronnie and knew that somebody had told me he was a big hunter. And I said, hey, can you hook us up, with a place to go turkey hunting? I said, it's kind of new to everybody. I didn't know that much about turkey hunting. And he really kind of got me involved in it. And there for several years, turkey hunting was the only thing I did. I didn't duck hunt, I didn't deer hunt, I just turkey hunted. And loved it. It was I always say this, back in the old days, there wasn't a great population of them. And I was constantly trying to figure out strategies. And I think we've mentioned on the podcast before, we would always go find somebody that had an old call or anything that they were selling at Walmart or any sporting goods stores, we would go to the opposite, right? Because we didn't want the turkeys that we were calling to be educated. So Ronnie has got a special place in my heart. He's always been one of the guys that I truly look up to as far as hunting and teaching me how to do stuff. So after we went on this trip this time, it's funny, we get in there and I guess being a traditionalist, I guess I'm getting old now, so I think I may be the tradition that they're talking about. So we get in there and I call him on and I said, hey, Bo, I said, what's the deal with this? I said, I think we're at a point that we're the tradition that everybody's talking about. And so I start telling him what we're doing, how we're calling. He goes, oh, Bubba, that's what I'm talking about, Bubba. Talk to me. So, and Ronnie has not been in the best health in the last couple of years. So I think I had him so pumped up about what I was doing. I said, no, I went after him with this. And, I hit him with this. And he was like, oh, Bubba, talk to me. Put them fighting purrs on him. He said, I'd have him coming. He said he'd have them pants down. He'd be running at me. He had me so pumped up by the time the day was over with. I was like, dude, I'm going back. So Stacy and I had a couple of times. And, back then, even when we first started hunting, there wasn't a lot of diaphragm calling. Most of the stuff that you had were wing bone, slate calls, and box calls. That was typically the stuff that was on there. And then Nightingale had come out, and Quaker Boy had come out with the fighting purrs, which we always use those for you guys. That we would always. I'll just tell you this. So people got their own way of doing things. We would work it in tandem. One would typically take a wing call. Primos used to make a wing that was kind of had a synthetic handle, but if you didn't have that, you would make in your own wing, right? You take one that you'd killed and keep the wing off of it. So we would work a deal where one would do the fly down or the flap, and then the other one, when we would start the fighting purrs, we'd do it in conjunction with that to make them sound like they were flogging one another, which seemed back in the old days, that was a game changer. If they were fired up, man, they would truly think. To me, it was the same format as rattling deer in, right? Mm-hmm. And if you've ever had them come in and run in on you while you're doing that, it's the most incredible thing. But we would do it in tandem. One would get behind the other or get into a place where he really wasn't going to do the shooting. And then as soon as they would start to come in, the guy that was doing the wing would stop the flopping and then would basically, or the flapping of the wing, and would get the gun up and get in a position to shoot. That's kind of how we always did it.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. But Ronnie was so excited. I think now that we have the technology with FaceTime, I'm gonna have to FaceTime him next time I do it.
When you're out there. Yeah. And so that all stemmed from the hunt that we were on, because we were with Hunter Farrier, and like you said, Hunter is a traditional turkey hunter. And
yes.
What we mean by that, and what we've been told by that, is a traditional or traditionalist turkey hunter does not use decoys. And so they'll go into national forest or go to public land or anywhere like that or private land and try to call a turkey in without any kind of decoys or anything like that. And so that morning, you and I and Hunter and Peyton all walked into the woods.
Right.
And so you were like, hey, I'm going back to where Scott's like, I'm going to go back to where you said you heard them and you saw them. I'm going to go sit there. And sure enough, Scott goes back and we, Hunter and Peyton and I go up on a ridge where I'd seen birds too. And we had called in some jakes and a hen and a tom that they couldn't see or get on. But Scott's texting me during that whole time we're on that ridge. He's like, man, I had a hen right here in front of me. I could reached out and grabbed her. I mean, that's how close she was to walking in, in front of me. And then he texted back and says, man, I got one hammering right here behind me. Yeah. He's like, where y'all at?
Yeah, so somebody give me some help back here because I got kind of broke up between it. And I think the other thing is when you're doing that and the excitement comes back, right? Because now 25 years and you roll forward and you think, dude, man, this is what really got me motivated, because to get this close to one that you can truly see and experience it, and they're so close, right? That that you haven't done it in so long, but all of a sudden you're doing what I call the soft purrs and the clucks and you're just chirping on that slate call, and then all of a sudden here they come, man, and I was hooked, big time hooked, and I was beside myself, and we were laughing because they were giving me a hard time after it was all over with, because my slate calls are probably prehistoric to the traditionalists. These go back to the one that's one of my favorites is a Lohman slate call, and Hunter's like, man, I hadn't seen one of those in years. My uncle used to use one of those, and I was like, dude, I think I have one of the first ones that came out that I remember coming out. So that one, it has a great sound. I like it. The one thing I'll say that I have bought this year, Clay's slate calls are off the charts.
Oh, yeah.
I bought one of his hammer calls, which I truly love, and the last
Clay Townsend.
Yeah.
Clay Townsend too.
So that was, I mean, kudos to him. I'd love to get him on the podcast. We're going to be calling him.
We're going to make that happen.
I'm going to call him.
I know where he lives. I can go to Hog Time and just put him in the truck.
You need to tell him that Scott Whittle won't give up. He'll just keep hammering on him. I'll be texting him all day long until he says yes. I'll make him submit, and he'll have to come in. But his calls are really nice. It looks like a plexiglass over it, but if you guys haven't got on his website, I would definitely look at that. That call is an amazing call. It has a great sound to it. It's the first time I'd ever seen one, and somebody actually Peyton had kind of turned me on to it, because she was talking that she had bought, I think it was a wingbone call for Hunter, but we got on there and got to talking. I was like, dude, I saw that slate call. I was like, I'm not going to have them make fun of my old Lohman call. Now I'm going to buy me something new and exciting. So it's a really good call. I like the way it sounds.
Yeah, Clay makes great stuff and makes a great product. Being a 5-time world champion call maker, he's got a good product out there. Just a local boy here in our town that went big time with turkey calls, and so turkey season. I know I ended up going a few more times. Couldn't close the deal. I was hunting on a private farm, a friend of ours, and then this bird was hammering every morning off the limb, and then I just couldn't get him in to where he done got to that place in this time of year where he was no longer interested in the hens or the decoys or nothing. And so the last day that I got to go, it came a flood. I mean, it came a thunderstorm before, lightning, and that every time it would lightning or thunder, that Tom would just gobble his head off. Yeah. And so I thought he was going to fly down into the field where I was at, and he never did. He flew down into the woods, I guess, just dropped straight down and came off this ridge. And I had my decoys out there, and I was sitting under my friend's barn, and thank goodness, because it came a monsoon. I mean, it was pouring down rain. And so he seen my decoys out 20 yards from me, never seen me. He just skirted, 70, 80 yards. He skirted the edge of the woods and just walked off and walked out of my house. And so beautifully.
He had your number this year. He
did. And the one that we went after, the one you heard hammering behind you, I've been after that bird for, I know, 2 seasons. And this next year will be 3. And so he's been the toughest bird that I've ever hunted. I mean, in all my years of hunting. And so that's how it goes. I mean, that's why they call it hunting and not killing. And it's, you go out there, it's a calling. We have to be insane. I was thinking about this when I was out there one day and it was pouring down rain. I was on public land, I thought turkey hunters have to be called to this because not everybody's gonna get out there like we did,
No.
you know, and battling the elements and
The horses, I thought about that just now. The horse.
Yeah,
Stacy
yeah.
also almost got me trampled by a horse in a stampede. He takes me next to this field, and he's like, "Man, we can sneak up on them. I think they're in this field." So
Yeah.
we get back there. I'm in a full regalia at this time. I've got a full mask on. I look like a oak tree that is whispering in the wind.
Well, let's give them some detail. Though.
Yeah.
You had almost like crawled up there to the edge of this field. You're standing like on your knees and stuff.
And
Here come
horse,
these two horses.
and this horse is like looking at me like, "Man, you don't look right, all right." And I'm sitting there, and all the time Stacy will start calling. That horse is looking and hears Stacy calling, and all of a sudden that horse comes. I mean, it is getting like right at me. Every time it comes, it starts pawing the ground. I was like, "Dude, I can't move. I'm afraid this horse is going to charge me before it's over." And I'm sitting there. I was like, if he pulls or there's a turkey comes out and he shoots, this horse is going to lose its mind out here with me underneath this thing.
And so I really thought Scott was going to get stomped out by some crazy horse, and so we couldn't get it done that day. It was fun just to watch that and to be a part of that. And so we thought we put a game plan together for this bird. And Scott's like, "I know when this bird's going to be there. We need to go after lunch, set up on this way." And really, it was like a deer hunt. It wasn't even like it was like a deer hunt. We were
getting desperate times and desperate measures, is what I like to say.
Yeah.
And it was the crazy part is I think that Stacy and I do a great job of sounding off one another. So we're sitting there talking about, "Oh man, well, we need to do this." And what if he comes in on this side? So we're trying to figure out the best angle with the lowest approach and the lowest amount of movement, right, to try to get to the spot. So I think that was, I laugh because he makes me giggle. I get out there, and then he got me hooked up with the ticks. And then I'm like I'm like a Pentecostal minister out there. Those things I cannot stand it, man. Even though you spray and you know they're on there.
I didn't know that you were going through that. I didn't know that you were having the same experience I have. I counted 13 ticks that I flipped off of me. 13.
They got up inside my shirt. I'm trying to get them off of me, and I'm trying to be still. And the next thing I know, now see, look, I'm already itching over here. You done got me. I'm over there trying to flip these things off, and I was like, God. Boom, I get off these things. I just know they've done. I told him, I said, I've either got Rocky Mountain spotted fever, I've got something over here. These things are on
Lyme
top
disease.
of
He was naming off. But here, before all that happened, we're sitting here, and I see the hen and the tom coming. And so I'm sitting over across to the left of Scott so I can see if they're coming out of the woods to him. And so I hear Scott over soft calling. And then it goes silent, like I don't hear nothing. And I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden I see the bird and the hen, and I saw the tom kind of trailing behind her. They're making that route. They're fixing to come out where they always do, walk this little grass line where Scott was set up. And so I text him. I said, "They're headed your way." And he said, "I'm at the truck."
Yeah, I'm done. The ticks had already broke me from anything in there.
So I get over there, and he's got his shirt pulled out. He's done.
Yeah.
He's done checked himself,
and we have. This is kind of how our day went. So we sit there. We think we've stayed with them all day long. We go in and hang out with Vince for what, maybe 45 minutes, and we're like, "Dude, we'll try it tomorrow." So we leave literally within what?
Oh,
20
minutes. Yeah, he sends us a picture. Yeah.
of this gobbler with at least a 10-inch beard,
yeah.
walking right down the field where we had just been in.
Yes.
And he was like, "Well, y'all left too soon." I was like, "Dude, those birds, I'm gonna get
them." They'll
them."
drive you nuts.
They will.
We have to. It's back to the call, and what we're here doing is you have to be called to be a hunter. You have to be called to be a turkey hunter, and I think everybody's called to it. You just got to get out there and do it. But you have to be called because, man, like I said, I've killed rattlesnakes, I've killed copperheads. I know I've seen water moccasins in South Georgia where I was down there turkey hunting, and ticks and mosquitoes. My gosh, mosquitoes will eat you alive. Yeah. And so we're just a different breed of folks, you know.
Now I think I know why I quit turkey hunting for about 20 years. I joke with him, but I told him, I said I quit because I started striper fishing, but once it's in your blood, I don't know if you can get it out. And I think that was the one thing that we got from, I don't know if you guys have watched the other podcast where we were really kind of delving into what started Hunter. And one of I think turkey hunters are a little bit crazy, also in a good
Oh,
sense.
100%, yeah.
So one of the questions that I thought was interesting when we asked Hunter, he said that he took a job, and when he couldn't go turkey hunting, he said, "I don't need to do this job anymore." And he decided that right then and there that he was going to hunt turkeys, and that was a priority in his life. And I mean, I think that's the same thing as being called. I mean, I think you get that. One is, I think turkey hunting is such a mind game, and I think we've talked about that before, that they're such a smart animal that they really intrigue the people that are hunting them. And I think that's the rush. Everybody, to me, it's like playing chess. You got a great chess player, and you're trying to beat him, and every time he's just killing you, man. He is checkmating you this, checkmating that. And turkeys are very much those kind of animals. And when these guys get, I think it's the thrill of finding it, but there's also a sadness, and I think that's the other part, is that when you finally do checkmate them, you know that story is over with at that point.
Yeah,
there's no more. You'll have to find another one that's as smart or smarter than that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's why, I think that's why a lot of turkey hunters will, take guys and take other people out to turkey hunt, because once you limit out, you're done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's for your state anyway. And so we're only allowed 2 birds here in Georgia.
Yeah.
So that's why I was telling somebody, my dad's boss, his son called me, and he was wanting me to go to South Georgia and get his daughter on a bird.
Yeah.
But she didn't even go this year because they didn't know how to call one in. And he's like, I've got tons of film of these birds on camera. And so I was like, anytime, I love just going out and, because it is a team. You can do it as an individual by yourself, or you can do it with as many as 2 or 3 people, and if you do a whole cameraman and you got somebody calling and somebody, like you said, running a wing, and running that fighting purr, it can be I love doing it with somebody else. I love calling one in. I love seeing somebody else harvest a bird. I love being able to give the high fives and just getting pumped, but there is no feeling like that.
No.
I mean, I've hunted deer, I've hunted, everything. Ducks, I love shooting ducks. But I think it's when you can see a turkey come in strutting at 50 yards and your heart starts beating out of your chest, and just that adrenaline rush that you get from that, never go. That's what
That
that's
thunder
what
chicken will do it to you.
100%.
Thunder chicken is incredible. That's what
Yes,
I'm
100%. And so I'm missing it already. It's over here in Georgia, and so we're, like I said, making plans on what's next. I know we got dove season coming up, toward the end of the summer, and early fall, and early goose. Scott is pumped up about early goose.
I think I'm going to become a goose hunter. I just tell you guys this all the time. So where I live, there is my neighbor has a really nice pond, and these geese are non-migratory geese. They stay there, but every night on the watch, they come across my house. And I went and bought a goose call, and I am serenading these geese, and I am trying everything I can learn to get them. And I've got them now. My wife gets tickled because it's such I'm going to say this. I get so excited about it that I block it out of my schedule every night to make sure. I'll be sitting there in the house, and I'll be like, I gotta go. And I'll run out there and get my goose call, and I will sit out there and wait for them. And I don't even have a blind. I will hide. I've got like a greenhouse. I will hide behind the greenhouse or get down underneath my truck. And my wife is all the time laughing. She goes, "What are you going to do when one of those things land?" I said, "I hope they do, because once I get this thing to land in this yard, it's on at that point." But they're a vocal animal. I mean, that's the other thing. And you're trying, everything. So this year I've had the long flute, and then I've tried that. They'll answer that one, but they love the short reed goose calls, right? And if you guys,
which one? What are you blowing? What call is that?
It is a G&K. So Stacy was joking with me. I'm a big ball shell guy, right? I tell you guys that all the time. And so they had a promo that they did with G&K calls. And if you guys have not checked it out, you've got to get on their website and look at it. The Giant Killers. They did a whole thing so they've got 2 goose calls and 2 duck calls that are out there that are done for ball shells, right? I bought it. I just thought it was cool looking. Now, I'll be honest with you, that's the reason I bought it. But once I got it, and I've never blown a short reed goose call, that it was a lot easier to blow than I thought than I anticipated it to be, which made it super fun, because then you can really mimic the sounds that you're wanting to do. So reach out to Glenn. He's an incredible guy. He's emailed me a couple of times. So as soon as I got that, I was like, dude, I can get me a duck call for this thing. If they're that easy to blow, I'm gonna try to get one just to see what it sounds like. So now I hope my wife's not watching this because I bought every call that they had in that series. I got one of each. I figured that good. They got to be that good. So I hopefully she's not watching this and she doesn't know where I've spent that money.
Sorry for the technical difficulties. It just hit me, and I was like, "Oh no!" I looked over, and
that's our amateur way of learning how to use
yes.
this. We're hoping that we'll have a new camera here pretty soon. I think I've already set my daughter into chaos that I've tricked her into telling me that I was getting a camera for Father's Day so, to do this podcast. She's mad because I tell her, I said, "Your mom told me that what you were getting me," and she was like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "You're getting me a camera." And it's immediately with her face, I said, "I got you." And she goes, "That's not fair." I was like, "I got it. I know what I'm getting now." So.
Yeah, and so we're moving up on our technology and doing better. You know, the iPhone does great, and you know, we just got to get a little bit better audio, and so we apologize. We're working on it. We're a work in progress.
And fun and extravaganza.
Yeah,
trying to get
and but so back to the goose calling and having them to fly right over your house. And so Scott's he has learned to speak Goosenese, is what we call it.
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to be any good now. I say that because we got early season for you guys that are out there. So I just now looked at the calendar before we started making this podcast. The Callapalooza is going on at R&T this weekend.
That'd be cool.
Which is cool. That's on there. So I mean, if you guys are in Arkansas, I'm sure there's going to be several people.
That's in Stuttgart. Yeah.
They're having that. So kudos to that. The thing for us last year was doing the early spec season. So I mean that's a call into itself. Those guys are really good at calling those specs, but those things are delicious. So if you shoot one, definitely make us some food. We'll come and eat it with you because those things are delicious. But Stacy says, I don't know about this Canadian geese. He said, I don't know if it's that good.
I have not. You know, I've tried to cook it, and I've harvested a lot of. I love hunting Canadians out of a layout blind. It's so much fun. To me, it's one of the funnest things you can do. You know, and just watching those big pterodactyls hit the ground. And when they hit hard. It's like, ooh, you've hunted specs,
Yeah.
And so to have one land right beside you, and it feels like, 20 pounds hitting the ground from 60 miles an hour. Yeah. And so there's so much, but I've never, and listen, if you're out there and you've got a way of cooking geese, please let us know. Yeah. I've done goose fajitas. I've done a ton of jerky.
Yeah.
Now we've got it down. The jerky we can make really good goose jerky, the best I've ever had. I mean, really, as far as any kind of jerky I've ever had, it's so good. One of my son's friends does it, and he's got a little recipe that he puts together. But besides that, man, and when you harvest, because here in Georgia, I think you can harvest 6 each or something like that, and you limit out, and we have the possibility of limiting out every time we go. You have a ton of meat that I don't want to see go to waste. And so I usually give it, I got some Hispanic people that I know that love it. And then just a few, it's crazy, there's a few Russians here, people from Russia that I know that love it. And so they know how to cook it, they say. And but yeah.
I'm just amazed that, as a kid growing up, and for us, I mean, we live in North Georgia, or Northwest Georgia, and I don't ever remember that many geese. I don't remember seeing geese as a kid, right? And you're seeing a lot more of these geese that are on there. And I joke about it. I pick my grandson up every day at this little convenience store, and I was telling Stacey about it. It's a little bitty pond. I said, me and this guy are gonna go hook up. I said, he is gonna let me.
Well, don't tell where it's at.
No, I can't tell.
You said it was loaded. You're like, man, that place is loaded.
And I told him, I said, these things have, he's in there complaining that they're crapping all over the parking lot, and I was like, dude, I'll take care of that for you. I'm gonna, if you'll just let me come over here and call them. So I got my grandson trying to learn how to call these things as well. So I mean, it's fun. It becomes I say this, so for you guys, this year you'll get to see my son-in-law, and he is a first-time hunter of any kind, right? We've kind of gotten him into the duck hunting, and this year on this trip that we're planning on going, he's going. But my daughter called me the other day, and she goes, she's about 7 months pregnant, and we're laughing. She goes, if he blows that duck call one more time, she said, he has about got on my last nerves for this duck call. And she said, what is it supposed to sound like? I said, it's supposed to sound like a duck. She said, he is watching every YouTube video that you have sent him, and he is learning how to call these things. And I said, but that's the only way you're going to get better, right?
That's right.
You get in your car, you shut the doors, and you just
pissing people off, man.
Yeah, pissing them off. And I get so tickled. She goes, I don't know if this duck hunting is going to work. I said, well, if it gets real bad, tell him just to go outside and blow it. That's what I keep telling them. They live in Florida right now, so he's pumped. He's got his stuff ready to go, and he is full on with this.
And that's what it's all about, is just introducing people to it and into the hunting world. And that's what I've always felt like my platform was, just to introduce people. And when in doing that, I try to introduce them to Christ. I try to get them. I try to promote Jesus and all that. And I feel like that's my call, because if you look at this, if you look at the statistics and you look at the demographics, there's rednecks everywhere.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can find rednecks in downtown New York City or San Francisco, wherever. You can find rednecks anywhere, and the common denominator is people love to be outdoors.
That is true.
And so and that's what this whole podcast is about. The call is to introduce people, and to like we talked about, being men and what that pertains to. But also for you ladies out there that are listening, and I know we have several that listen. We want to help you be better outdoors women, or people. And so, it's all about, this call is about, spiritual development. And I was talking to Scott, family leadership, community service, things that men are called to do, mentorship, professional integrity, health and wellness. I know Scott's getting healthy. He's looking good. And, we try to, it's the whole, everything in the body, the mind, the soul, the spirit. We try to help people, and that's getting them out there hunting and having a good time. A lot of things, in the Christian world, Scott, people think that Christians can't have fun.
No,
we know better than that, right?
That is true.
We make life fun.
That is true.
We may have to repent a little bit.
Oh, that is definitely true. And I'm all the time giving Stacy a hard time, because if you guys don't know me and you're around me, one of the things, especially if I see I'm going to grab you, you're going to have a task, right? Because I believe that people are drawn to people that have tasks.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell you the story. So me and Stacy were at church the other day, and this guy comes up to us and he's on there. He's following, man. He is on us, wanting to go duck hunting, and we're like, yeah, man. I'm going. And he got so funny. I was laughing because he followed Stacy clean out into the car.
To my truck.
Trying to get in the car with him. And he was on there, and he's like, man, I'll bring my gun. I said, come on, we're going to take it. And I think that's the big thing is being a part of that, but also those people want to be around people like us, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to do that same thing. And I want, for the audience that we're looking for, we're doing the same thing. If there's something that's out there on a calling, get a young kid out there today. I mean, somebody that's on there. I mean, Stacy and I joke about it. We just had this conversation yesterday talking about hunting with one another. And you would think that we had been hunting for 20 years together, right? I mean, we sound off of each other. But I'm very much, and we laugh about it, because my wife is really the one who kind of, even though Stacy and I work together, she would always tell me, she goes, Stacy, he won't go with you if he has to ask, right? You're going to have to ask him, or he won't go. And now I'm the first one. Okay, now Stacy, once I'm on, where are we going next? What's the next thing that we're doing? So I mean,
and here's the crazy thing about that is, Scott like me, I didn't know, but he had nobody to hunt with, and I didn't have anybody to hunt with. My boys are at the age, they're college age, just graduated college, where they've been hunting for the last 3 or 4 years with their buddies. Yeah. And they don't ask Dad to come on those. Now, back when Dad was taking them hunting, it was all cool.
Yeah.
And giving them spots, locations, in which they're now hunting of mine. And so, but they don't invite me. It's, I was like, okay, well, if you'll be that way, I'll find me a hunting buddy. And so I was talking to Wendy, Scott's wife, and she's like, well, he ain't going to ask you. He's that kind of person. He's not going to ask you. And so I asked him, I wish I'd asked him 6 years ago, and I was like, I said, dude, I'm going to be here. If you want to hunt, come on.
You're going to be here. So once you tell me that, it's on.
I got there, I thought early. Scott already been there. He'd been there probably 30, 40 minutes. And so, but, that's just it. A lot of people won't ask you.
No.
And here's the sad thing about hunting is, it gets to the place where, yes, I want to introduce people into the hunting world, the outdoor world, but I'm also very inclusive on who I invite. Just because, you know, there's so many people who want to get into it, but they want to get into it thinking that, hey, this is, you know, this is something I can do, and really they get into it not knowing what it's all about,
Right.
and then you have to kind of go over everything, and they show up, you know, they show up with none of the stuff, and you know, and I'm like, dude, we're fixing to go get in the mud up to our waist, and I told you to get some waders, and they didn't get any waders, and so, you know, and then, you know, they don't know how to handle a shotgun,
Yeah.
and that's scary. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, when you take a full-grown man out in the woods, he don't know how to handle a shotgun.
Yeah.
And you know, the first thing he does is let one go off at your feet, you know, and you about crap yourself.
Yeah.
Then you think, well, you know, but there's so many men out there and young men who, you know, like who don't have dads, who don't have mentors, who don't have, you know, even though you said you had your dad, my dad, you know, that was the one thing that he did encourage me and my brothers to get out and hunt.
Right.
And so, but there's so many young men who don't have that guidance, that leadership. You know, graduation's taking place here right now in our hometown. A lot of kids are graduating. And I was thinking, as I was at a graduation the other night, I was thinking, you know, yeah, smile now, because the
Yeah.
reality's fixing to hit hard.
Yeah.
It's fixing to slap that smile off your face.
Yeah.
And so, you know, a lot of young men don't realize what's fixing to come at them, you know, and in the workforce and marriage. I mean, all these different, you know, avenues. They're fixing to hit some, you know, speed bumps and some potholes and things like that. And so me and Scott, you know, we've talked about, that's what we want to help, you know, with this call. We want to help people. We want to help them. And the top thing, if you don't have God in your life, you know, you're going down a dead end.
Right.
You're headed toward a bridge that is out.
Yeah. And it's kind of like that same, I think that the invitation is kind of like the Christ invitation to you, right? You know, people are going to, he's going to knock at your heart, all right? He's knocking all the time, but you don't answer it, right? It's the same thing of being invited to go hunting, right? You never know that it's going to be there, or the experiences, because sometimes it's beyond that. And I think about in the last couple of days, I've been listening to this song by if you haven't listened to the new Morgan Wallen album, you know, I'm the Problem. There's a great song in there called Skull, Chevy, and Browning, right?
Oh yeah, great song.
It's
yeah,
a
you
great
said that
song.
to me. That's a great song.
And in that thing, that song, if you listen to the lyrics of it, it's kind of cool, but at the same time, there's a lot of it's deeper than that, right?
Well, the truth,
it's the kind of a gist. If you haven't heard it, it's about he's going hunting with a guy, and as this hunt starts out, it's kind of a joking back and forth, and then the real life lessons start. Right, they're in the process of field dressing a deer, but in this thing, they're talking about politics. They're talking about things that are on there. He's the older man's trying to give him knowledge to try to do it. And in the song, he talks about that I came away from the C10 in the truck of something that I didn't know I would have, right? And that's the thing, the lesson that he was trying to teach him, you know.
He went for a wall hanger and came back with a whole lot more. Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing with the great thing about having the experiences of going hunting. It doesn't really matter if you kill anything. I hate to be that person that breaks it to you. I could care less if I really did. I just think that sometimes to me, it's about stories. And in my life, I've joked with Stacy. I tell him this all the time. I said, because I know I'm older. I said, the one thing that I want you to take away is that one day if I pass away, I want you to do my eulogy, and I want you just to stand up and say you either like Scott Little or you didn't like Scott Little. But I'm sure there'll be 1,000 hunting stories of crazy stuff that Scott has done, right? I mean, that's just those memories. And we deal with, in the business that we do for a living, we deal with old people all the time, right? And people that are on their last days. And it's amazing to me, the ones that start to reflect, it's always about the memories that they have. They start to regress. Yeah. And I hope that when my regression starts is that I'm telling stories and they'll be, you know, I'll start reliving it again. I think that would be a cool way to go, man. I just think that would be an awesome way to go.
Yes. Well, just like that Riley Green song, you know, there's no better way to go. And having that, you can't put a price on those memories, you know what I mean? You know, like, and you can't put, you know, there's nothing that compares to that joy of just hanging out, you know, and I think men need that. Men need that getaway, that place where they can just go. And me and Scott, we can talk about crazy stuff.
Yeah.
We can have bodily functions and, you know, near each other or whatever, and we just have fun. We just have a good time and be men and talk about men stuff and hey, what's bugging you And I know we'll get to the place in life where we're both are, you know, Scott can read me and I can read him and say, hey, what's going on with you? You good?
Yeah.
And really be able to open up and just
Yeah.
talk, because men carry so much, man.
Oh,
They,
they do.
you know, and a lot of people don't see that. I didn't understand as a teenager. You know, I was looking at my dad. I didn't realize all the burdens and all that he was carrying inside of him that he never let out. And sometimes he did let it out. He let it out in anger and frustration and things like that. And a lot of times he would let it out on me and my brothers.
Yeah.
So,
But I think growing up as a man, I think that's the other thing, that we live in a world, especially my generation, right? That it was considered a sign of weakness if you did talk about something like that.
Yeah.
So they would always be quiet, and you think, man, I'm kind of different in that I try to get my kids, and I'm pretty open with them about, you know. But it's the conversations, because I think these conversations lead to things. And so this morning, right before this podcast, I'm down here. An older employee that I had for years drops by to see me before you got here, and we're just talking about stuff. And the next thing I know, we start talking about the Bible, and we're talking about, what do you think about this? And he and I have that kind of relationship that, you know, I'm not, you know, maybe we agree to disagree on some things, but a lot of it, I'm looking at him, I was like, you know, I wonder why we never had these conversations. I looked at him, I said, dude, I wonder why we never had some of these conversations in the whole time we were.
Yeah.
And I think that it's funny that, and he told me, he said, you know, today, he said, I thought I was kind of alone. That when he got up, and I go, what are you talking about? He said, you know, some of this stuff, I don't have anybody that I could talk to. He has really gotten on fire for God in the last 3 years, and it's gotten to a point in his life that, and I'm not going to share his name, but he said, you know, my wife doesn't believe what I believe, and he said, I'm the head of the house. So I'm trying to get this thing, and he said, I know I've done some things in my life that I shouldn't have done, and I probably set a bad example, but I'm trying to do the right thing. And he said, you know, it's gotten to the point where it's become a huge confrontation, and this whole podcast is kind of the same thing. Where else would you have that kind of platform that you felt comfortable enough to come in and somebody that you hadn't seen in a couple of months and just got to start talking about it? And so I'm throwing out different ideas to him, you know, hey, well, you know, have you thought about this, or have y'all talked about that? Have y'all prayed together? That type of thing. And those are the things are not signs of weakness, but really signs of strength that give people hope and encouragement to do the things that are on there.
Yeah.
So yesterday I'll give you a perfect example. We have another thing that came out here with Homespun. You know, we were sitting out in the yard, and next thing we know, Stacy's being wrangled in. We're doing a wedding.
No, I'm on my way. We were supposed to do the podcast yesterday. And so I'm on my way to the office here to do the podcast, and Scott's wife texts me and she says, are you in Calhoun? And I was like, yeah, I'm headed toward the office.
Yeah.
And she said, well, just, you know, let me know when you get there. So I texted her and said, well, I'm here. Well, Scott says, hey, I got something I want to give you. And so I got to go to my house and pick it up. Let's just go get it. So she texts me and says, hey, you know, I said, well, we just left. We're going to pick something up. We'll be back in about 20 minutes. She said, okay.
Yeah.
And so further go on with the story.
So we get it back, and me and Stacey are riding along. It's a young couple, which I think was smart. That they didn't want they wanted to get married by the justice of the peace. They quit doing that since COVID. So he was asking me what I thought. So I started giving him my I guess my feelings on their relationship, and I thought Stacey did a great job, because yesterday it is a huge commitment, right? And immediately, I don't think people realize that getting married, it sounds, they're kind of oblivious before the vows start, right? Mm-hmm. And it's all the excitement. And these two, and Stacy goes, you know, this is a serious vow. It's a vow that you take not only before these people, but you take it before God. It's a commitment that you're making. And I thought that was an interesting take. All right. I think it was also being married for so long. I don't think, looking back, that I thought it was that it was that serious. I mean, I think when you're a young guy and you're doing that, but I think that's the other thing. The guy, as soon as it was over, you know, he's thanking Stacy, he's thanking us. I mean, I thought it was a cool experience. I said, where else can you, when you get to go to work one day and you're marrying people one day, you're helping. I mean, you just never know what's going on.
Your wife texted me and she said, can you do a wedding? I was like, I'm ordained. Let's go. I got my stuff right here. I always keep it on my phone, like, you know, if I have to, because I've done a lot of shotgun weddings. It's usually for people in the military or other things like that. And you know, but I've done a lot of shotgun weddings, and they had their paperwork. They were ready to go. they could these two, and what really impressed me is they just wanted to be married. They wanted to, to be together, and they're older. He's older, and he understood. I mean, that's why I took everything into account. Is that and they didn't want a huge wedding.
Right.
I mean, that was the reason they had they wanted to do it right out here. Like, let's just get it done, because they didn't want a huge wedding, which they both could. They both come from pretty wealthy families.
Yeah.
And so, but they just said, let's just do it right here.
Yeah.
He had his gym clothes on, and like he just got back from the gym, and I'm sitting
ready.
here, and I got my homespun stuff on, but it was a cool thing just to be a part of that, and just to have our family, which I call the homespun family, to be a part of that, and to see, like, there's too many young couples who view marriage as, okay, if I want to get out, I can. Or they call them starter marriages.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start with this one. If it don't work in about another year or two, then I'll. So I always make sure I really emphasize, you're making these vows to God, not just to him and her, and so take it serious. And so, but they seem like a great couple.
They are,
and
I think the other thing is you walk away from this, you never know the impact that you're gonna make, right? I don't. When we left, I don't know what their spiritual, their thing is, but all of a sudden you think about it. Hey, all of a sudden a month from now they may think, hey, that Stacy guy's a pretty nice guy. I'm gonna hang out with him.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Well, the first thing that we did after we did the ceremony is like, hey, we all go to church together. Scott and I go, and Wendy's like, Scott's wife's like, Stacy's the pastor. He's one of the pastors of the church. Y'all need to come down there.
Yeah.
And so, and just giving them maybe some, food for thought, that they were like, okay, when, we can't do this without God. I'm gonna tell you, you can't do marriage without God. You can't do life without God.
Yeah.
But you can't do marriage. Me and Scott were kind of kidding around. We both out-punted our coverage in our marriage, and we married way up. Yeah. And he's like, man, I wasn't supposed to marry somebody like that. And he said,
Stacy, because I give the realist speech, right? Because we have friends, and I tell them all the time. I look at him and I go, dude, you definitely married up. I mean, that was way out of your league. You shouldn't have gotten that one. I'm just going to tell you that's like a foul ball in baseball. You're lucky to be on the field with this.
Man, come on.
And you got to know what you are. I mean, I look back now and I think, man, either I was just talentedly encouraged that she would take notice.
You got that Riz. What the kids are calling it today is Riz.
I don't know.
Scott had the Riz.
I don't know my Riz. I always laugh, but I think you've got to know who you are, and sometimes guys have to have that. I was telling Stacy, I said, I was joking about one of my friends, and I have to have this conversation with him. Sometimes he'll get mad and he'll be upset at his wife, and I look at him and I was like, dude, do you realize what you got? I said, you're complaining about the 2%, and you've got the 98%, right? Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, the glass is way over half full. I mean, you got to pick and choose.
You shouldn't be here.
You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be complaining, right? I mean, and I think as an older guy, I start to look back at that, and I'm not the guy that I was, 25, 30 years ago. I look at it, Lord, I surely don't look like that, and so now we have to dazzle my wife with personality. My wife has this thing now, so for you guys, she'll look at me and she'll say, well, your jokes aren't hilarious anymore, Scott. And I'm like, my jokes once were hilarious because I carried you. You just heard these stories so much that you're tired and bored with them. That's what I tell them. But you got
to come up with some new materials.
And you got to have the friendships, right? That's the thing that as you get older, and I think that's the 100%. Thing that we see, that they become.
Because looks fade.
They do fade.
I'm not getting any prettier. I mean, my wife is. It's amazing how she's getting prettier. But I'm like, man, I'm not getting any prettier. And funny thing happened yesterday. My son's graduation from 8th grade. One of the older teachers that had her in school was kind of hitting on her. I was like, dude,
that's my wife.
I said, you didn't hear him talk about how good looking you are, and God, you turned out great.
Yeah.
And boy, you're pretty. And I'm like, he's 70 years old getting on my wife. I'm like, I'm right here, Mr. Whatever. I ain't gonna say his name. And so, but yeah, and it's just, we are blessed beyond measure and highly favored, as a lady said to me yesterday. But God knew what we needed.
Yeah, that is true.
Once again, the call on our life and the call to you. And if you're out there and you're a young man and you're like, man, I don't know if I'll ever find the right person. I got 2 sons who are just. they don't believe they'll ever find the right girl. They just like, Daddy, I don't know, because
Yeah.
you know, they say there's no good girls out there, and I know there is. But you know, it's like God bringing you your wife. God brought me mine. I mean, at 100%. And I look back now at that, and I'm thinking God had to do that, because there's no way that I could have pulled her.
Yeah.
So He had either blind her, or she had a dumb moment, or whatever. And but you know, I tell the boys, and I tell young men all the time, you know, make sure they love Jesus and their mama.
Yeah.
If they love their mama and Jesus, you're good.
Well, I keep telling, since I'm on this podcast, I'm going to tell everybody. My son is kind of in that same ballpark, right? He's been doing it. So I'm going to say this. I had a dream, and I told Stacy this, and I'm going to put it out there because somebody's going to hear it too. You're going to hear this because and I don't usually have these things. They're almost like clairvoyant dreams. So this has been what, 6 months ago?
It's been a while back.
Yeah, I had this dream that all of a sudden. I didn't even really know that much about her. I just heard her music. I heard Ella Langley singing. And I started watching this thing, and I started seeing this girl, and I'd seen some of the posters in there. And so I had this dream that Bailey, my son, had met her, and that they were basically in this thing, had fell in love with one another, and that she'd introduced him to Riley Green, which is one of Bailey's idols. We always talk about that. So in this deal, though, I told Wendy this past week, I was on this page. It's on a TikTok thing that had Ella Langley on it, and I thought it was really interesting. And so Ella, if you're listening out there, you could definitely be my daughter-in-law if that's the case. And I was so confident
about
your
future.
I told Stacy I was so confident about it that I was going to pay for Bailey a backstage pass for him to go and tell her. And Bailey's like, she'd think I was some kind of nut. I said, no, I'm that confident that it would happen. You would entertain her. She would be awestruck. But we were laughing because she did this post on TikTok, which they asked her, what kind of man are you looking for, right? And it's kind of geared around the same thing of the men that we're trying to develop. I just want a man. And that was an interesting thing. It wasn't his hair color. It wasn't his body build. It wasn't on that. I want a man, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought, that's interesting because there's probably so many girls out there that want not only a spiritual man, but they want a man that truly does man things.
That will lead them, that will protect them,
right?
that will, provide.
That sets that thing up there, which I thought was really, so there's a lot of hope out there. I think that sometimes when you least expect it's when it happens, right? And just like we were talking about that couple yesterday, they met on a dating app. They come in there, and within a couple of months, they're at a point where they realize that they have a unique relationship, and they decided to make that commitment. And I think that's what happens for a lot of people. You know, they go through life, and I always tell them it's a purging also, right? You got to be around these other people that you find out that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for things. So for you guys that are out there and girls that are out there that listen to this, Scott Whittle has a rule, right? And it's called make the list. And I tell you this all the time. Put down the things that you will accept and what are important to you in your life, and you read that list every day. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Once you see that, you're going to know when that person walks in front of you, it's going to be so crystal clear that when you start talking, that it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks, and you're going to say, dude, that's the right person. I tell everybody the story how I met my wife, right? I had gone through a bad relationship, had gone through a bad marriage, had been divorced, and I really didn't want to date anybody. I was like, dude, I was older. I was like, man, I don't really want to do this. And I started getting really systematic in my approach to thinking, which was I wanted to make a list. So I started thinking all the things that were on there. So Wendy and I met through another friend, and we're really close friends. And all that time, you know, we had a friend relationship. And I always tell this. One day I'm reading, and I still remember it so vivid to this day. I was sitting in my truck, and I pulled down the visor. I had my list, and I'm reading the list. And as I finished the list, I went, holy crap. The woman I'm looking for is Wendy. The girl that's my friend that I looked at this and I went,
that's good.
It hit me like a ton of bricks. Then I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna have to convince her, right? I got to convince her now that she's the woman on my way. Yeah. So it's one of those things. But did
it take a long time to convince her, or was it pretty?
No.
Was she like, you know, okay, yeah, I feel this. I mean,
so I tell this story.
The same way.
So I know we're getting close on our time, but I'll tell this real brief story. So I was an engineer in a plant, and one day I'm wrestling with this decision, right? It's like the same decision that you're on. Do I tell her, right? Are you going to be upfront and honest, Scott? And in my mind, for you that don't know me, I'm one of these type of people that once I make up my mind to do something, I'm going to do it, right? One way or another. So I'm sitting there, and I thought, I need to call her today, right? And I'm just going to this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to shock and yaw her. I'm just going to tell her how I truly feel, and I'm going to lay it on the line. And I'm going to walk away. If it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be mad, because I have said what I had to say. If she doesn't feel the same way, I'll already know that's where I don't be. So I sneak away. I'm in the middle of a 4th of July shutdown. So everybody's working. I'm being called, 9,000 places, and I get a chance to get off to the boiler room of this plant, and I got the phone, and I pick up the thing, and I call her office number, and instantaneously she picks up the phone. All right. And I said, hello, and she hangs the phone up. And I was like, dude, I guess that's the thing. So I thought, well, dude, something happened, so I call her back. The reason she hung up the phone, for you guys that don't know, is that on the opposite end of that, she was already wrestling with the idea that I was the right person. And her friends were trying to spur her along to do it. So when she got the call, because there's no caller ID, right, that pops up, and immediately when my voice popped up, she said it startled her so much that she just hung the phone up. So I call her back, and in this thing, I can still remember it just like it was yesterday. I pick up the phone, and I just tell her, I said, hey, I've done a lot of thinking. I think that you're the woman that I love. I don't know how you feel about me, but it's not going to hurt my feelings if you say no. I'll understand. And I just laid everything out, poured my heart out, laid it on the line, and she just went silent. And I went, are you there? And she goes, you won't believe this, but I was actually in the thing of calling you at the same time you called me.
Wow.
And I always tell them that's when you know that God's involved in it, and things are there. So there's the train.
There's the train, yeah.
Yeah, so.
And I think, let's let that get by. I think, and you can back me up on this, Scott. Outside of your salvation, the single greatest decision you'll ever make as a man is who you marry.
Oh yeah, and it's
100%. It's so important. I try to stress that because as a student pastor, and as a dad, I try to stress that so much.
Yeah.
And
it'll make or break you.
It will. 100%.
Well, you can have, like I always tell everybody, you can have a really great life, or you can have a life full of struggles, right? And
you like that man in Proverbs, that the Bible says he's on the roof, because he's with that woman that's always on him, and so he's on the roof trying to get away from it.
And it's like the story of Job, right? I always used to tell them, I said, imagine having all of the things happen like in the book of Job, right? And then on top of that, having a nagging wife that just is begging you to just recant God and just give it back, right? It'll all be over, Job, if you'll just do this, if you'll just denounce God. Don't do that. Your life can be that bad, right? I always tell that, or it can be that good. If you're equally yoked, then you are on the right path. And your life, I'm going to say this: there are struggles. It doesn't matter about not having struggles. You're going to get them, but your struggles are going to be a lot easier because you're going to have somebody that's with you that's also helping get you along that same line, and having somebody that
a helpmate. The Bible says a helpmate. That's the appropriate word for it. Somebody to help you get through.
And you may be great people. If you're in relationships now, and it doesn't. I always say this. I sent my son something this past week, and it was on. When you're not in the marriage or the relationship that God wants you to be in, because there's always chaos, right? Yeah. If you're in it facing chaos every day, and you're thinking, man, what in the world? Then that's a sign from God telling you that you need to separate. Now, that person may be the best person out there, but just because y'all are two good people doesn't mean that y'all are good together. And you really got to take and monitor that and be open to it, to thinking, man, my life, every time I turn around, I don't feel like I'm gaining anything here. I'm being pulled under. So for you guys out there, we're trying to bring this to you. I'm hard on my kids, and I tell Stacy all the time. Matter of fact, we were laughing the other day. We were talking about hiring somebody, and they said my daughter comes in and says, "You got to tell her Whittle's Law, right?" And that is a true statement. So I'll leave you guys with that today. Is that I made this out years ago, and it's called Whittle's Law. It's my law, right? And I always tell this: if I would have known this law early on, I probably would have made half the mistakes. And part of that is, you basically do not marry or date anybody that doesn't have the same social, ethical, and moral well-being than the family in which you're from, right? Doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It just means that your struggles are going to be a lot harder. And the analogy that I like to use in explaining that is like you have two parents. One comes from timeout, and the other one is corporal discipline. Now, I'm not going to say either one is bad or wrong, but all of a sudden when people get faced with scenarios, and let's say you're into a marriage for 5 or 6 years and you got 3 kids and now it's time to discipline, all of a sudden when conflict happens, you're going to go back to the what you learned as a child, right? And that's your safe place.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you start to talk about disciplining your kids, and you're like, well, I wouldn't do my kids. That's not the way I was raised, and they're going to say that. All of a sudden, what didn't seem like a big deal, it's going to be a big deal, right? Mm-hmm. And there's going to be a lot of hurt feelings and things that are on there. But if you kind of come from the same background, then your approach to that, you don't want to discipline. You may not want to discipline your kids anyway, but at the same time, your approach of how y'all are going to do it. And I tell everybody, it's like being on a football field. How much ground you have to cover to make the end zone. If I start on the 20 versus starting on the 70, I'm going to be a lot easier to make a touchdown. And that same approach is how I approach my kids. And I tell them all the time, I'm super critical of the people that they date, in that I want them to be super
or just
critical.
who they hang around
Yeah,
with. You
yeah.
know what I mean? That's, you show me your friends and I'll show you your future, is
No,
what's been said, that
yeah.
quote. And that's so true, Scott. And that's such a powerful lesson, and
Yeah.
and that people don't really take serious, and that's why we have what we have now, that we lead the world in divorce, and it's because people think, well, I'll get married, and if it don't work, I'll bail out, and that's not how it's supposed to go. And I think, like you said, with the Whittle laws, is going back to those morals. My mom never did. She may have one time spanked me, but the disciplinarian in my house was my dad. I mean, anything. I mean, my mom would say, okay, when you get home, your dad's gonna get you. When your dad gets home, he's gonna get you. And my mom may have spanked me, which we'd laugh at her because she, but she tried to. But my dad, he was the one.
He bring the hammer.
Yeah, and so and that's and it's tough too. And we can talk about this later on. But having a blended family, my wife and I are blended, and so she brought 3 kids and I brought 3 kids in, and we disciplined completely different.
Y'all like the Brady Bunch.
Yes, 100%, man. If we just had blonde-haired kids and some of them named Marcia and Jan and all that, we've been the modern-day Brady Bunch. But and that's tough. That's like I said, that's a whole different topic for a later time.
See, we can go from hunting to relationship.
Man, this
advice.
has been good though.
It's like being in a seeing, for you women that aren't a part of this. A lot of times these discussions, because typically, and I'm going to say this, I've been an eyewitness to this. I've been in a blind with a bunch of guys, and one guy being in a bad relationship starts pouring his heart out, and these guys are trying to help him, trying to give him advice. So for women that don't believe that, I've seen grown men cry in these things, and having a support system is part of
the
that.
right, right support system.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be in a duck blind where guys, like you said, his whole world's falling apart. He's going through this horrible, time in his relationship, and you have guys like, just leave her, buddy. You come live with me.
Yeah.
We'll drink every night.
Yeah,
and then you have guys like me and Scott who will say, hey, listen, first of all, let's look at you, and then let's look at the situation.
It's a two-way street, and you got to be honest with yourself. And I think that's the thing in this day and age, is also being true. Me and Stacy were talking about this earlier today. Was talking about just do what you say you're going to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to be a person, and I think that's a lost art, in that we live in such a feel-good world that we're afraid to tell somebody no, or I can't do something, and
or just be real,
right?
You know what I mean? You suck at this. You're not doing a good job right now. I want people. I mean, I've always looked for people like that to be real with me in life. If I'm not doing a good job, and Scott's my employer, if I'm not doing it, I want Scott to pull me in and say, hey, listen, you're not doing what we're paying you. You're not doing it. Listen, we got to talk about this. Or if I'm being a sorry daddy, I want Scott to be able to say, hey, dude, I love you, but you're sucking right now, and it's good to have men like that in your life who care enough about you that tell you the hard things, that tell you, and that are there for you, to cry on their shoulder or whatever, but also just to tell you like the tough stuff, like, hey man,
and we don't, and I think the families with broken families, That's another thing, right? You were fortunate that even though it may have been a different dialect, there's so many broken families now where the mom and dads have divorced and
Mm-hmm.
their kids are being raised by people that they really maybe not even know that well,
Yeah.
that the spouse has taken over that may not have the same, let's say, ethical or moral structure that you had, right? And you're trying to talk to them. And it's a whole different ballgame.
Oh man, that's tough. And that, like I said, that's a whole different subject because you think about, say, like for you and I know I married somebody who was a lot like me in this second go, and so, then you may have your kid's other parent marry this person that's
Yeah.
like them, and
Yeah.
then they're teaching them a whole different thing than what
Right.
you're trying to teach them. Then they're going over, so we'll get on that later
Yeah.
on. That'd be a great topic right there.
We'll have to take a notepad to
Yeah,
that one. And if
yeah.
there's any comments, you guys got something or
Any Bible verses, anything
Yeah.
like that you want us to look at?
throw it out there. We're open to it. I mean, we can go from shooting a 20 gauge to
That's right.
we'll start looking through the Bible and we'll try to
Come
figure
on.
it out. I mean, that's my thing.
Yeah, man, this has been a great podcast, and we appreciate you all those who tune in and have subscribed and liked. We encourage you, please. Here's what we ask you to do: if you haven't liked and subscribed this, please
Yeah.
do it. And if you have, please share it. Tell somebody about it. Tell your sons. Tell your husbands. Hey,
Yeah.
I listened to two guys, and man, they
You got to get on there with these nuts. You got to
Yeah.
listen to what they're saying. I think they may have a plan for us.
Yeah, and I'm excited about the future because we got some really cool plans and some good ideas about some later on videos.
Yeah.
And I believe they're going. I think we almost broke the internet the other day with Hunter getting attacked
Yeah.
by the deer.
Yeah.
I'm almost predicting more stuff like that to happen with us.
It's going to be a comedy routine. So please stay with us. Subscribe to this thing. We look
Yes.
forward to it. Any comments that you guys make, and until the next time. I
Yes,
guess.
God bless you. Thank you for joining the call. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.